Okay, we are here. Hello, everybody. Hi, Netta. How are you doing today? We're going to be talking. Hi, Jacqueline. We're going to be talking about your invisible rule. If you're wondering why you keep doing the same thing over and over again, or keep having the same mistake over and over again, or the same relationship, or the same job, or the same bank amount in your bank account, then you want to be here to learn what's going on. Hi, Deborah. Hi, ALJ Bard. You want to be here. Like, why are we stuck? Why are we doing the same thing? Why do we repeat ourselves? Why is this happening? We're going to talk about that today. We're going to talk about whether you want to talk about relationships, whether you want to talk about money, whether you want to talk about health, whatever it is. Anita, our moderator, has arrived. Hello, Anita. Good to see you. Hello, Mrs. D. How are you today? Good to see you today. Yes, good evening. So we're going to talk about, if anything, any area of your life that you feel stuck in, we're going to talk about why it happened, how it began, and why you keep finding yourself in the same situation year after year, month after month, week after week. You know, like you want to make more money, or you want to be in a relationship, or you want to have a better job, and you seem to be stuck. We're going to talk about that. So, what is, I think we want to think about what is the area of life, because we all have an area of life that we find ourselves stuck in. Money, is it money, honey? Is it money? Do you need to make more money? Are you wondering why you're not making the money you know you should be making? Or are you stuck in a job, or your career is stuck, or you can't find love, or you can't find the right guy, or you keep having the same bad relationship, or you keep like wanting to lose weight or be more healthy, but you find yourself repeating the same thing. We're going to talk about all of that today because, hi, Tara, how are you? We all have an area of life that we find. Hi, Maria. We all have an area of life that we find ourselves not living up to our potential. We know we have the right potential. Hi, Sandra D. How are you, our Facebook friends? We all have potential. We know that we've not tapped, and we're wondering what the heck. And you look at people who have what you want, or who have achieved things that you know that you deserve and that you should have, and we're going to say, what the heck? Oh, thank you, Tara. I'm a polka dot day today. But we're going to talk about why this happens. We're going to go deep into why this happens so that you will understand, so that you can change it. Because, we all, hi, Nikita, we all have an area of life that we find ourselves repeating, and we find ourselves stuck. And then we'll say, oh, you know what? I'm going to do better next time. And then you start off, and then you end up at the same place. So we want to talk about that. So I call it your invisible rule. There's another name you could call your basic operating principle. And we're going to go way, way, way back where it began. Because only if you know, hi, Arlinda, only if you know where it began will you be able to solve it. Because it's hidden to you. Because if you knew, you have the knowledge, you know better, and you're just like, how do I know better? I learned from experience, but it's happened again. So I would like you to tell me in the comments, what is the one area that you would like to change in your life, that you know you could change? You know you have better potential, but you haven't changed it. Is it your career? Is it relationships? Is it your love life? Is it your health? Is it your money? Nate, put in the chat, what is the one area that you would like to change in your life? What is one area? I'm giving you choices. You could put more than one if you want, but is it you need more, you want more money, you want a better job, you'd like to have better relationships, you'd have a better love life, you would like to make more money. What area is the area that you want to change? Let me see in the chat. I haven't seen anything yet. Who, for you, what is the one thing you want to change? Because I want to make sure that I cover it today. So if you don't tell me, I won't know. So tell me the area, because I can talk about a lot of things. I can talk about money. I can talk money, honey. I can talk about love. I can talk about relationships, career. We can talk about all of it, but we need to know what is the area that you want to do. You would like to have more money. Zena says better future relationship choices. Okay, good, good, good. Who else? Who else like money? Because we can definitely, money is always a good topic to talk about, and relationships. Those are probably the two biggest things that we all look at, is like money and love, right? Yep. Okay. So let's just start at where did it begin? Okay. Now I want you to listen carefully, because I'm going to go very slowly because I want you to understand where it began. Okay. Okay. So each of us were born, right? Hi, Caroline. How are you? You're open to dating again. Okay, good. So we'll talk about dating, but we're going to talk about where it all began. Why do you make the choices you make? Why are you stuck, or why are you not living up to your potential? So we start off with, we're born. Every one of us, if we're here, we were born. Now, when you were born, would you say, hi, Caroline, when you were born, would you say you were strong or helpless? When you're born, hi, Miss Trina, when you were born, were you strong or were you helpless? Because this is a key here about why we are not reaching our potential. Okay? Were you strong when you were born, or were you vulnerable and helpless when you were born? Hi, Kim. You know answers? What do you think? Helpless, right? Anita, we're helpless. Zena, you were strong. So you're trying to say you were walking around and running the house when you were born? Or did you have to depend on people to pick you up and carry you around and feed you when you were born? Helpless, that's right. So when we were first born, we were at the mercy of our parents or our environment. And we couldn't do anything. We weren't in charge. We had to listen, we had to follow the program, whatever the program was in our house, right? Now, when we were first born, we could, yeah, helpless. That's right, Zena. When you were born, you couldn't complain. You couldn't tell your parents or anybody around you, hey, I don't like this. You couldn't move. You couldn't leave. Whatever was going on, you had to find a way to cope with it, right? So now let's just talk about you. Let's say if you, as an adult, you've all been around a lot now, right? You can walk, you can talk, you can do a lot of things. Hi, Lisa. You can do all those things. But let me just ask you to use your imagination for a minute. Let me ask you to use your imagination and think about if somebody kidnapped you right now and took you to a strange, put a blindfold on you, and you couldn't see, and then they gave you a shot and you couldn't walk, and they carried you somewhere strange. You didn't know where it was. And if you were there and you couldn't walk and you were blindfolded and say they spoke a different language than you. You couldn't understand what they were saying. But you're an adult now. But they blindfolded you. They did something so you couldn't walk, and you can't understand what they're saying. And you were there in this strange place. How would you feel now? You may be in your 40s or 30s or 20s or 50s. How would you feel if someone kidnapped you, blindfolded you, made it so you couldn't walk, and you couldn't understand what they were saying? How would you feel? Scared and helpless. That's right. Scared and helpless. And you're grown, and you've been in the military, Tara. You've experienced a lot of things. Yes, terrified. That's how we came into this world. If we feel that way, if somebody did that to us, how do you think we felt as infants? We didn't understand the language. We didn't understand what they were saying. We couldn't walk. We had to go. We didn't know what they were doing. We didn't understand the noise. We didn't understand anything. And we had to learn to cope and adapt in that family. The biggest job we've ever had in our life is we have had to learn how to cope and adapt and fit in to our families. So we had to fit into our families no matter what was going on. Whether our parents were arguing, whether our brother or sister was picking on us, whether they wouldn't pick us up, they wouldn't give us any attention. No matter what happened, we had to learn to adapt. Now, let me tell you what would have happened if we didn't adapt. If we didn't learn how to fit into our family and learn how not to be upset, calm our nervous system, we only had 3 choices as an infant. Children only have 3 choices because you can't change anything. You can't talk up or speak up for yourself. You can't move. You can't leave. You got to fit in no matter what, no matter what's going on. Because if you don't fit in, you only have 3 choices. 1, you could go insane. 2, you could die. Or 3, you learn how not to be upset about whatever it is so you can cope. Does anybody have any questions about that? If we were going to live, if we weren't going to go insane, we could not walk around being upset as children. We had to just be, oh, it's okay. Whether we were being left alone, whether we were being beaten, whether people around there was fighting, whether whatever was going on, whether our brothers and sisters were picking on us, no matter what was going on, we had to learn how not to be upset. I should give you a good example. Have you ever watched they'll have it like late at night where they'll have babies from Africa and they're like skin and bones. They're like starving to death and they're not crying. Why? Why aren't they crying? Because they learned not to be upset about starving. They didn't have a choice. Either you were going to adapt and get used to starving or be crying all the time. Kids in the grocery store have tantrums about not getting candy they want, are crying more than these babies that are starving. That shows you how we learn. It's just a natural instinct. We've got to fit in to our family, no matter what's going on. And how you fit in, let me tell you how you fit in. You fit in by repressing those feelings, repressing, pushing down anything that's being upset, that's upsetting. So that's our job. When we first are born, up to the age of 7, we've got to fit into the house. We have to not be upset, and we have to not repress those feelings. So no matter what house you're in, whether you had a house that was happy, whether it was a house that was sad, whether it was a house that was angry, whether it was a house that was lonely, whether it was a house that was sad, whether there was a house where there was a lot of food, or whether there was a house with not a lot of food, whether it's a house with a lot of love, whether it was a house with no love, whatever was going on in your house before the age of 7, you had to learn how not to be upset, how to adapt and cope in your family. Does everybody understand that? Give me a 1 if you understand what I'm saying. Give me a 1 if you understand what you had to do. The biggest job in your entire life was to learn to fit in and adapt in your first house you lived in before the age of 7. You didn't have any choice. You didn't have a choice. Either you were going to fit in and not be upset, or you would go insane, or you would die. Certain kids, I don't know how many of you have heard of sudden infant death, but some babies didn't make it. Some died because it was whatever was going on, they could not adapt. But 99.99% of us adapt. And how we adapt was we learned how not to be upset and to adapt. I'm going to give you another example. In Romania, during the war, there were babies. They were orphanages. There were thousands of babies that were left in orphanages. And these orphanages, they fed these babies. It was too many babies to even touch or take care of. But they fed them and they put a roof over their head. But nobody touched them. Nobody hugged them. Nobody talked to them. And they all became what's called failure to thrive. That means these babies, their bodies, they were smaller than kids that were touched and loved. They were, their brains didn't develop. They couldn't communicate. Their bodies were compromised. Even they shriveled up because they weren't loved or touched. And that's called failure to thrive. Because these kids, even though in this orphanage, even though they had, barely enough food to eat, they never were touched. They were never loved. They were never hugged. No one ever talked to them. And all these thousands of babies were all compromised. They couldn't talk. They weren't normal because they had failure to thrive. Some of us, we may not have been in an orphanage. We may not have been in a bad house, but we had to adapt. And let me tell you about adapting. How many of you had brothers and sisters? Any of you had brothers and sisters in the same house? If you sat down and talked about it, you had completely different experiences in the house. How they adapted, how they survived in the house was completely different than you. You did not, Tara. But if you had siblings, each of us experiences life differently. We all get upset about different things. So when we're in these situations in our home, you had 7 kids. Every kid would be talking about a different experience. You'd be asking, did they grow up in the same house? And then how about each child with personalities different? Each one has different strengths and weaknesses. Same parents, same house. So how we adapt or how we fit into our family is as unique as your fingerprints. You're unique how you interpreted what happened in your house. Not whether it's good or bad, it's just how you interpreted it. It was like, how did I adapt? So that's where your invisible rule comes in. You're in this house. You've got to fit in. You've got to not be upset. So what do you do to save yourself? Your brain is doing it. You're a baby. Sometimes we don't even have language. So say, for example, you have things going on. For example, I'll give you a very good example about myself. And this is what happened in my invisible rule. So I'm a baby. I don't have my stand. I hope I'm not moving around too much because my stand is at home and I'm at Greg's house and I didn't bring it. I thought I was staying one night and I ended up staying all week. Okay. So when I was a baby, my father said to my mother, do not pick her up. We don't want any spoiled babies. Let her cry. So they left me in my little bassinet. I guess I had a bassinet. So they just left me in there and I had to lay there. Nobody was picking me up. I wasn't as bad as the kids in Romania, but I was laying there in this bed and I needed love. So guess what? I found my thumb. I'm by myself. I'm laying in the bed. I need more. I need love. But I found my thumb and I sucked my thumb so that I wouldn't be upset. But guess what? My father had buck teeth and he didn't want me to have buck teeth. So he decided to go on a rampage to stop me from sucking my thumb. So he wouldn't let me suck my thumb if he was home. He put rags around my thumb. I'm a little baby. I'm in a bassinet. He put rags. He put hot sauce on my thumb. He did whatever he could to make me not suck my thumb. So what do you think my invisible rule became? I can't talk yet. I'm in this bassinet. But I created an invisible rule because I could not be upset. Because if I kept being upset and not being able to suck my thumb, I could have gone insane or died. But we're very resilient. What do you think my invisible rule became? Can you guess? Can anybody guess? Of someone who's a baby and she's in her bassinet, nobody's picking her up. Nobody's giving her love. Nobody's hugging her because they don't want to spoil her. And then she tries to suck her thumb to, as Lisa says, self-soothe. And then even that, I was like a little baby being hit and being rags and hot sauce to suck something I want to live. What do you think my invisible rule became? My invisible rule became, Pamela, you cannot have what you want. My whole life was spent believing that I couldn't have what I wanted because in my brain, from a little baby, life told me I couldn't have what I wanted. So that's where the invisible rule comes in. And we all create an invisible rule based on what happened in our life before the age of 7. Let me give you another example. There was a woman, and she was one of my first clients. And she lived in London at the time. She was older. This was back in California. She was one of my first clients. And it was the war. It was World War II because she was a little girl. And they were bombing London. So her parents, she was an only child. Her parents wanted her to get to safety. They didn't want her to be in London where they were bombing. So they sent her to go live with an old aunt so that she could be safe. She was an only child. She was used to her mother and her father loving her. But now she's at this aunt's house. She doesn't even know. And the aunt is like being mean. She's mad that she has her. She's being cold. She's being cruel. And she was so unkind that this woman she was a little girl, got really sick because she went into shock that she was just treating so badly. And she missed her mother and father. She didn't know this lady, and this lady was like mean and talking mean and not being kind to her, and she went into shock. So she got sick, and she kept getting sicker and sicker and sicker. So then they call the doctor, and the doctor says she's not going to live very long. Go send for her parents because she's not going to live very long. She's very, very sick. So they sent for her parents to say, you brought your daughter out here to keep her safe from the war, but she's very, very sick. And her parents rushed to her bedside to see her before she died. And guess what happened? When she saw her mother and her father, her heart leaped. She got better. She stopped being sick and she got well. But she created an invisible rule. Her invisible rule was, if I get sick, they will come. She associated being sick with bringing her parents back for love and saving her life. So guess what? From that moment on, she got sick. She got sick. And when I met her, she was in her 40s or 50s. I don't know how old. She was older, 50s. And she was so sick. She lived close to the ocean. She couldn't even walk to the ocean, a couple of blocks away, because she was so sick. So when we went to her first house to find her invisible rule, and she realized that she created an invisible rule based on getting sick, that she was saved by her parents coming, and that her brain, it was hidden in her brain, her invisible rule that if she got sick, they will come. Her whole life was about being sick in her marriage, being sick as a parent, being sick in her entire life. She was so angry because it was something that was hidden to her that she didn't realize. And guess what? 6 months later, I was hiking in Pacific Palisades. I was living in California at the time. And I was hiking with a girlfriend. And this woman and this guy passed us by. And it was this woman. She realized that once she realized that her invisible rule was about being sick, she overcame being sick. And she got a boyfriend and was out hiking in the mountains when she couldn't walk 2 blocks. So those are examples that I'm giving you about why you find yourself repeating the same thing over and over again, just like I kept repeating, not getting what I want. I can't have what I want. I can't have what I want. That's like why, when I met Greg and Greg was there, I did everything I could to not have it because my invisible rule said, I can't have, Pamela, you can't have what you want. I don't care what you say. You can't have what you want. When I was married at 28 and had a beautiful home and I had 2 kids and I had a beautiful car and all of that, guess what? I couldn't keep it because I believed in my subconscious mind that I couldn't have what I wanted. I was more comfortable struggling. So what about you? What is it? For example, what is it about money? Like, for example, if you don't have money, it's just like me. Like, I always knew I had potential to make a lot of money, but what if you believe you can't have what you want? What do you think is going to happen? You're going to struggle with money because you believe something. What is an invisible rule? It's something you believe about yourself. It's something you believe about life. It's like what you believe you can have or what you can't have. It's a belief about what you think you can do and what you don't do. So you could look at someone else and you say, I know I have the same strength. I have the same potential. I'm just as smart as they are. Why? Have you ever been like you've seen women with men and say, what does she have that I don't have? How many of you have ever done that? Say me. If you've ever like seen a guy or a woman with a guy and you're like, what does she have that I don't have? I should be able to have that. Yeah. Like you look at it, you say, well, what's wrong? What's wrong with me? But it's your invisible rule. Yes, Lisa. Yes, Ebony. Yes, like we believe something, there's something hidden in the back of our mind that we don't know. And it's almost like we're like puppets. We're puppets following something that we don't even know what it is. And it's just like, you have the potential, the career. Your invisible rule chooses. TJ, I have something that you can find it out for free because my whole life was spent based on an invisible rule that I didn't choose. We don't choose it. But it's how we survived. So let me just go a little deeper here. When you're born, okay, when you're little, we learn through experiences. So everything that we have in our brain is like a little story. We don't know it's a story, but if you think about all the words for example, if you have the word ice cream, there's a little sentence that you have about ice cream. You'll have, I like chocolate ice cream, or I don't like ice cream. I like butter pecan ice cream. You don't just have ice cream. In your brain has memory. I call them memory chips. So we have all these memory chips, thousands, everything we've experienced in our life are like little memory chips in our brain. But they're sentences. So everything that we like, I am happy. I am sad. But you think about it in a story. You don't think about sad. We don't just think about sad, ice cream, jump rope. You have a story. I like to jump rope. I don't like to jump rope. I was good at jumping rope. I was my daddy's favorite. My mother was this. My brother was this. Everything in your brain, whether you know it or not, is a story. I call those memory chips. I am strong. I am weak. We have all these thousands and thousands and thousands of sentences in our brain. And we believe those sentences in our brain, whether they're true or not. So, for example, if I asked you, what's your favorite food? When you think of your favorite food, you actually almost see it or taste it because the memory chip comes on. I like pizza. I like pepperoni pizza. I like sausage pizza. I don't like peppers on my pizza. Like, I don't like green peppers. So do I look green peppers? No, I have opinion about green peppers. I don't like green peppers. I like vanilla yogurt. I don't like this. I don't like liver. So we all have these sentences in our brain that we just think them and we don't even question them. We just think, oh, that's how it is. So the sentences I had in my brain was, oh, I can't have what I want. Oh, I'm not lovable. When a baby is left in the bassinet, nobody will pick them up because they don't want, if you cry or whatever, because they don't want to spoil you. Do you think you get the message, I'm not lovable? So then your whole life you're spent not being lovable because you believe it. The difference between you and the woman you see with the guy is she believes something different than you do. She's no different than you, but she believes something different. For example, there are women who get serially in violent relationships. Why is the same woman gets in a violent relationship and another woman never gets in a violent relationship? Because she believes that she deserves to be in a violent relationship. And she can be out. And a man could read her body language and know that she will let him be violent with her. We give out messages about what we're thinking, even though we don't know what we're thinking. So just listen to yourself right now. I'm talking, and however many people are here, no two people are having the same thoughts. Because you're playing your tape recorder of voices that are in your head, and you believe it. You're believing all the voices that you're listening to. You're believing whatever it's telling you. We don't even question. We believe what we think. But we shouldn't believe what we think. That's why we stay in the same rut. That's why we keep repeating the same thing, because we believe our thoughts. Our thoughts aren't true. They're just thoughts. They're just words. Thoughts are words that we hear that's talking right now. This is what's ruling you, is what you're listening to right now. How many of you know you're listening to something right now? Whether you can't hear it, it's in your thoughts, but you're still listening to it. How many of you can understand that? Say me, if you realize that right now, at this moment, you are listening to words and sentences that you have no control over. They're just having you. Yes, Fanny, Caroline. Yes, it's just in control of you, those thoughts. And we don't even know that it's in charge of. That's who's in charge. You think you're in charge? No. Your thoughts are in charge. And what are your thoughts? Your thoughts are sentences that are programmed in your brain like a computer, but they're not true. But you believe it's true. That's the problem. If you we're going to go for a job or in a relationship, or think that if you're in love If you think if someone comes and says, "Oh, I love you," they want to love me, and my thoughts are saying, "Oh, you're not lovable," and I don't even know it's telling me that. I don't even know that it's telling me that. That's the biggest problem. The problem is not that you're having the words, which, remember, we talked the other day, our brain, we have 6,000 thoughts a day. About 6,000 thoughts a day. 80% of those thoughts are negative. And 80% of the thoughts you have today are thoughts you had yesterday, the day before that, the year before. They're all the same thoughts. And so we're walking around listening. You're listening right now. You're listening to thoughts that are controlling you. That's why you can't change your life. That's why we limit ourselves, because we're listening all day long. Sometimes you go to bed, right? How many of you go into bed and your thoughts are still in charge of you? You can't even go to sleep. Where do those thoughts come from? Whose thoughts are they? They're not yours. And we believe them. That's the problem. We look in the mirror and the voices, our thoughts tell us what we should think about ourselves. When we go to work, our thoughts tell us whether we have a good job or a bad job. It tells us whether we could do better or not. When we make money, our thoughts tell us how much money they think we can make. I think he's in the front. He's in the front room. He was here. I was just in a class. He came and listened to my class. Yeah, he went to Pilates. Yeah, he's a sweetheart. I'm at his house right now. So, can our brains create thoughts that never happen? Yeah, all the time. All the time. So let me give you an example, my own example, right? So I meet Greg, and Greg, loves me, or he's starting to like me. We fell in love over time, right? But I grew up in an environment where the men were all very, I'm trying to say it in a nice way, they were all, unfaithful. They were all had women. My dad had women and all that. So my thoughts said, oh, men are this, men are that, men are this, men are that. So I meet Greg. What do my thoughts tell me? What do you think my thoughts said? My thoughts said, oh, he's doing this. Oh, he's doing that. He's doing this. He's doing that. And the problem was not that I had the thoughts. The problem was I believed the thoughts. Yeah. And then it was like, he was like, what's wrong? What, I mean, we were together every weekend, and then one weekend he wanted to work around his house. And I'm like, oh, he's going to cheat. And, the whole thing. I went out with another man. I mean, I just went crazy because I believed my thoughts. My thoughts made it up. I had no evidence, none. But that's what our thoughts do. We have no evidence. You have no evidence that says that you cannot get a better job. But your thoughts tell you can't. Your thoughts tell you don't deserve this, you don't deserve that, and you believe it. And here's the problem. When we believe our thoughts, whether they're good, bad, or indifferent, it will be a self-fulfilling prophecy. What our thoughts tell us. And we want to wonder why we repeat the same thing over and over again, why we're stuck, why can't we get out of the rut that we're in? It's because we believe our thoughts, and our thoughts are not true. They're Just thoughts. What are thoughts? Somebody give me the definition of what a thought is. Right. What we believe isn't always true or make it right. Yeah. But we believe it. So tell me what a thought is. Who could give me the definition of what a thought is? Give me a definition of what you think a thought is. Anybody can tell me what you think a thought is? What's the definition of a thought? An idea. Okay, that's good, capital C, an idea. And how is the idea put to us? How do we see the idea? Or how do we understand the idea? She's onto something. She calls it an idea, but it's even more. Let's break down what a thought is, down to the studs, all the way down. Belief, okay? It's a belief, but how is the belief given to us? How is the belief or the idea delivered to us? Anybody else? Let's break it down even further. Capital says it's an idea. Jackie says it's a belief. It's in our minds. That's good. That's good. By everything that we've been exposed to, by everything we've been exposed to our life. Yes, but how do we receive it? How do we receive it? How is it given to us? How are thoughts given to us? If we broke it down, how do we receive our thoughts? Intuition. Yes. Intuition. Experience. Yes. Through past experience. Yes. And how do we break it down further? Experience, intuition. How do we break it down further? How are thoughts given to us? It's just like handed to us. How is it given to us? Emotions. Yes. How are emotions given to us? Actions. Actions. How are those given? From what we were taught. Yes, but how do we receive them? You want me to tell you? Through the actions of others. Yes, I'll tell you that. I'll tell you. Okay, this is very simple. We receive our thoughts in a sentence. If you get an idea, it's a sentence. If you have intuition, it's a sentence. If it's an experience, you have a sentence. Everything in your mind is a sentence. Everything that you hear in your mind is a sentence. Can you see that? Say yes if you can see that. What you're listening right now in your brain are sentences, aren't they? When I'm talking to you and your brain isn't silent. Your brain is running a whole bunch of sentences about what I'm saying. Hi, Kimmy, how are you? From parents, yes, Marie. But our thoughts arrive in sentences. Listen to it. Look at what's going on in your brain right now. Listen to it. Aren't there sentences? Aren't those sentences running through? It's like if there was a ticker tape going through your brain, they're sentences, aren't they? Now, they're sentences, and we believe the sentences. Knowledge gives to the other part, past tense. But knowledge, again, comes in a sentence. They're not just words like the and bad or good or whatever. Everything you think is in a sentence. And you're listening to sentences in your brain, whether they're true or not. And do you know where most of the sentences in your brain come from? Most of our first experiences of sentences that were stored in our brain happened before we were 7 years old. This is like a database, like a computer. Foods you like, your personality was formed. All your basic sentences, the 6,000 sentences you run in Plus, were formed before you were 7 years old. So who's telling you the sentences? How old are they? That we're listening to all day long and believing. From a 7-year-old. And they're just popping up, running every day, all day long, day and night. Sentences like a ticker tape running through your brain, and you believe them. And they limit you, and they keep you running the same thing over and over again. So, the invisible rule, there's one major sentence, like my sentence. I can't have what you want. You can't have what you want. Don't get your hopes up. Nope, you can't have what you want. The sentence was in my brain from the bassinet, and I believed it. So if ever I got my hopes up, oh, you can't have that. Oh, you can't have that. No, I can't have that. The woman I told you got sick. Oh, you got to get sick. You want love, you got to get sick. Oh, I'm too this. I don't deserve that. Oh, that's for other people. Something wrong with me. Whatever your invisible rule, until you know what your invisible rule is, it will rule you. And even once you know it, you still have to work at it, but at least you know. Because right now, you're just a passive bystander. You're sitting there without even realizing it, listening to sentences that you created when you were young that tells you how much money you can make or what your potential of, that you're smart or whether you're not smart, whether you're pretty or you're not pretty, whether you can have what you want or not, whether you can have a good job or not, whether you can have this or that or not. All of that comes from your thoughts. And if you don't know where your thoughts are, if you don't get in charge of your thoughts, if nothing else that you get from this today, I want you to understand that your thoughts are not true. Your thoughts are just thoughts. You have 6,000. How are 6,000 thoughts that are stored in your brain? You can just listen to them, what they're saying to you. Most of your thoughts are negative anyway. 80% of your thoughts are negative anyway. And you believe them. And when you look at what you're believing, your thoughts aren't good for you. So and then let's think about the world, environment, the community, the world, the news, all negative thoughts to feed into your negativity. What was the conduit? In 1987, I realized that we all have an invisible rule, or at that time I called it a basic operating principle that runs our lives and limits our lives. And I have spent my life mostly working with lawyers and professionals to help them understand their invisible rule. Yeah, our thoughts are not our friend. There's a saying, don't go into your thoughts alone, because it's like going into a bad neighborhood. Because your thoughts have nothing nice to say to you at all. You think your thoughts go, oh, Lisa, oh, you're so beautiful and you're so smart and you can make it and you can do anything you want and the world is your oyster. And no, does it say that? Right. That's right, Tara. Our thoughts are like programmed, they're sentences. So if you start realizing you can't stop it, you can't stop your thoughts. Let's do an experiment right now. I'm going to count to 3 and I want all of you to stop thinking. 1, 2, 3. Stop. How many of you were able to stop thinking? You can't. You can't stop thinking. But you can start to be aware of what you're thinking and where they come from. So that is why I have the invisible rule here, folks. I started this in 1987 and it's free. Anita's going to put the link there. I mean, you could pay to get the report if you wanted to, but it's free. Talk to me. It's me talking to you, asking you 3 things to help you find your invisible rule. It's a start. It's a start. Do it. Click on the link and go there and find your invisible rule so that you start understanding what you're thinking, because your thoughts are not true and your thoughts are not your friend. So if there's nothing else you get out of today, I want you to understand that you are not your thoughts, and your thoughts are only sentences in your brain that keep going and going and going and going. And 80% of them are negative, and mostly they are not kind to you. They're not positive. They're not good for you. But at least know that that's happening. That's right, Tara. Do it again, Tara. You don't have to do it once. You can do it again. You don't have to pay for the voice, and if you want the report, you can buy that. But you really, 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 it'll change your life. That's what changed my life, was I realized, oh my God, I'm believing these thoughts, and I know how to do it. You know what I mean? And I like found the man I love, and I was like, my thoughts came back with a vengeance to spoil something, because Pamela, you can't have what you want. He doesn't really love you. So thank you all for being here today. I hope that you all got this. This is my life's work. This is why I created it, because I helped a lot of people. I charge a lot of money because I work closely with lawyers and professionals, but I wanted to make it available for everybody, anybody in the world. I want them to be able to find their invisible rule. So click on that app there and go and find your invisible rule and come back and tell me what you found out. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate you saying that. So thank you. I want to thank Anita, our moderator, who is always here for us. And thank Lisa and Tara for coming. Let me see. I have to do this thing here. Oh, over here. I think I could. So anyway, I'll be back tomorrow. I'm here Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then I'm not here Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So anyway, thank you all for being here. Appreciate all of you. I really, really want every one of you to be able to be in charge of your thoughts. And that's why I created the invisible rule. If you've done it before, do it again, because your thoughts didn't go away, did they? So remember, they are sentences and they're not true. Just remember that. Don't just believe your thoughts, because your thoughts are not your friend. Okay, I'll see you tomorrow. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.